Amidst the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, Kendrick dropped some particular bars in Not Like Us that have raised some questions about Drake's approach to music and culture as a whole.
You run to Atlanta when you need a few dollars. No, you're not a colleague, you a fucking colonizer.
In these lyrics, Kendrick Lamar is outright saying what many Drake haters have been saying for years, that Drake colonizes different genres of music for solely his own benefit. However, Drake's colonization of genres is exactly why he is such a big artist in the first place. Drake has built his brand around being a versatile artist who is not stuck in one genre, allowing him to reach the heights of commercial success that he has thus far. And for this exact reason, isn't it in his best interest to maintain his status as the biggest rapper in the world? Or is there a line that he simply shouldn't cross, no matter the money? Even before Drake started his global campaign of trying to colonize genres, lingos, and culture from other parts of the world for his own music, he was caught stealing parts of other hip-hop artists' music without permission, such as back in 2015. XXXTentacion released a track titled Look at Me on SoundCloud before he was sentenced to time in prison. Fortunately for him, it eventually gained mainstream popularity 2 years after it was originally uploaded, even earning platinum certification completely organically. However, as with many hidden hip-hop gems gaining a buzz in the underground, Drake will soon hear about it, and in 2017, proving such a theory due to the release of his More Life playlist, including a specific track on the project titled KMT, wherein many fans grew suspicious of his influences when recording the song, because Drake's flow and cadence were virtually interchangeable with X's Look at Me. And when X was finally released from jail, he made sure everyone knew Drake was ripping his whole sound on Twitter, as well as in an interview.
So he plays this shit, I hear da 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 my done. I'm like, what the fuck? As soon as it started, like I knew he was getting that. And the funny thing is, we didn't discover it. The fan, like you said, the fans, because they're so cult, like it's like, I got a piece of the internet, you feel me?
And in case there were any doubts of the similarities between the two songs, fans even created mashups inserting Drake vocals on the Look at Me beat and vice versa, X on KMT. They were direct matches, proving there was definitely some suspicious activity on Drake's part.
Demons just got out of camp. I gave my girl an advance. Love is just not in my plan. Not even taking a chance.
Another example is Soulja Boy's historic viral meme on Breakfast Club claiming Drake stole his song bar for bar.
In the world! These niggas, yeah, Drake? Drake? Everything he know.
Y'all didn't hear Drake on his first song? Tell me what's really going on. Drizzy Drake back in this thing already. What's happening? That's Soulja!
Shit.
That's my bar.
Shit.
He copied my whole fucking flow.
That's Kiss Me Through the Phone.
He copied my whole fucking flow. Word for word, bar for bar.
And as we came to find out time and time again with Soulja Boy, he did in fact do it first. His track that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his first verse, released in 2007, included the exact same lyrics as Drake's Miss Me's first verse 3 years later.
And they tell me what's really going on. Soulja Boy up in this thing, I'm ready. What's happening?
Tell me what's really going on. Drizzy back up in this thing, I'm ready. What's happening?
Although Soulja Boy didn't seem too offended by Drake's fandom of his music, as they collaborated a few years later on a song titled We Made It. Not to mention, Soulja Boy was credited for his contribution to Drake's song featuring Lil Wayne as an interpolation for using the same lyrics, cadence, and melodies. Something that happens quite often in the music industry, and more specifically hip-hop, such as when a rapper blatantly references another artist's song's lyrics to pay homage. Now, if Soulja Boy had not been credited whatsoever, then there would be definitely an issue. But there is something to be said that one of Drake's first big hits was derived from another popular artist. And unfortunately for Drake, another one of his most iconic anthems of the 2010s was also called into question, this time by Drum, now famous for his collab with Lil Yachty on Broccoli, who publicly announced on Twitter that Drake's new release, Hotline Bling, was not, in fact, a remix to his own recent viral hit, Cha Cha. Fans then compared the two songs and drew similarities between the melody, drums, and flows. What's even more suspicious is that Beats One official Twitter account even confused Drake's song as a remix of Drums 2. Drake defended himself in an interview with Fader, claiming he was simply inspired by the sound of Cha Cha and made Hotline Bling to give his own take on the sound. He said,
you know, like in Jamaica, you'll have a rhythm and it's like everyone has to do a song on that. Imagine that in rap, or imagine that in R&B. Imagine if we got one beat and every single person, me, this guy, all these guys had to do a song on that one beat. So sometimes I'll pick a beat that's a bit like sunnier, I guess is the word you use, than usual, and I just try my hand at it. And that's kind of what Hotline Bling was, and I loved it. It's cool. I've been excited by that sort of creative process.
But something to note is that the reason the songs sound so similar is because they both sample Timmy Thomas's song Why Can't We Live Together in the main melody of the beat, and therefore share a similar cadence and vibe overall. Although vocally there are definitely many differences, but regardless, Drake still received backlash for allegedly stealing sauce from another trending artist's sound. Beyond just being accused of taking ideas and lyrics from viral songs, Drake has also been accused of hopping on new trends of music to maintain dominance in the music industry. This kind of strategy is more characteristic of pop music acts, where they gravitate towards production or musical trends that are gaining buzz so that they can stay commercially successful too. Hence why Drake has had a long career battle against fans and critics who do not consider him an actual rapper, rather a pop artist. One way he tried to change the public's perception of him though is through linking with the most popular street artists to shift his brand image. Drake's long relationship with Atlanta spanning almost 10 years, beginning with Future. Already being popular in the mainstream, he hopped on the remix of Future's then trap hit Tony Montana. Drake and his fans made it seem like he was spotlighting the roots of the genre to give Future more exposure and a larger audience, but others were more skeptical. Instead, Drake, knowing the value in Atlanta's culture and cosign, could have been grifting to also reach a new audience for his own sake. In fact, Drake and Future's relationship was briefly soured after Drake reportedly did not show up to their scheduled music video shoot. However, later on, Future and Drake would become close friends, even releasing an iconic collab tape titled What a Time to Be Alive that benefited the both of them. Future gave Drake more street cred and respect from the trenches of black culture, while Drake assisted in launching Future into the mainstream. The relationship seemed like a win-win. This would all change once Drake began partaking in this exact same strategy with other rappers from Atlanta too. Drake needed another street artist to attach to in order to maintain his new certified trap rapper persona. Luckily, in 2018, there was a new prince of the streets rising in Atlanta, Lil Baby, who already had affiliations with QC and Young Thug. And, arguably at the peak of his newcomer hype, Drake reaches out to, once again, bless the streets with his mainstream cosign. Of course, we all know where this is going, because now, not only is Drake credited with some of Future's biggest hits to date, but also Lil Baby's. In fact, Yes Indeed remains Lil Baby's second most popular track of his career today, accumulating over 1.1 billion streams on Spotify alone, in addition to his third most popular song, Wants and Needs, that Drake released under his own project. There are countless other examples by which Drake has tapped into the Atlanta rap scene, including the likes of Young Thug, who actually praises Drake for spotlighting new artists.
So you got Drake playing everybody part. No.
So Drake like the industry OG for a lot of people.
Yeah, I gotta put him right there in that because of the way he's saying the songs or none of that. It's because he fuck with every fucking body.
Mm-hmm.
Upcoming artists the most.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got to respect it.
Mm-hmm.
He just know, like, I'm the hottest nigga in the world. I can go #1. I can pipe you up. You can become a superstar.
And while Thug is right that Drake gives newer artists opportunities, what many fail to realize is the likely higher benefit he receives from such calculated risk. For most artists' careers, especially in such a competitive market like Atlanta, will recycle to the next popping artist every couple of years. And given Drake is already an established act, what better way to continue to reach the youth and or street culture than to continuously collaborate with every one of these artists? The combination of Drake's stimulus with the support of the streets wanting to put on their new local artists is a lethal combination. But as mentioned, once said artist's music runs stale, Drake remains as the last man standing always, waiting to capitalize on the next. In 2022, Drake's strategy became even more obvious when he made an entire collab tape with 21 Savage this time, which was all too similar to his previous with Future, as they were both from Atlanta. Originally, Drake and Future allegedly had plans to release the sequel to What a Time to Be Alive in the near future, but I guess Drake already felt like he tapped out that market. He needed one of the new kids on the block. What was even more strange was the album essentially sounded like a Drake project, with 21 Savage acting as a backup artist, just there to supplement Drake's lore, rapping about street life. Kendrick Lamar pointed out this trend on his recent diss tracks towards Drake.
Future when you didn't see the club. What, little baby help you get your lingo up. What, 21 get your first street cred.
Now, that is not to say many artists, from Atlanta or not, aren't cool with this exchange, regardless of Drake's intentions, since a song with him can change their life forever. It will undoubtedly get millions of streams and has the ability to boost someone's career overnight into mainstream stardom, as we've already seen many times. One of the main reasons others have beef with Drake right now is how he abuses their culture, meanwhile using them as a lifeline to maintain his relevance. He's just an actor. After all, that's literally where his rise to fame began, starring in the television show Degrassi. Atlanta is only one of the cultures Drake has fallen under controversy for colonizing though. Dancehall and Afrobeat have been prominent influences in much of Drake's more recent work, and frankly, his most popular album, Views, selling over 1 million copies in its first week, unheard of in today's world. For this album, he recruited the best the culture had to provide, such as Wizkid, one of the biggest artists of West Africa, who assisted Drake in perfecting the Afrobeat cadence on One Dance, resulting in a global smash hit. Popcaan, a dancehall artist who actually signed to OVO before leaving eventually, featured on the original version of Controlla that leaked online, later replaced by a sample of another famous dancehall artist, Beanie Man, and more infamously Rihanna, with Caribbean descent, featured on the track Too Good that also interpolated and sampled one of the previously mentioned Popcaan's track. Drake would continue releasing dancehall and Afrobeat infused music the next year on his following project, More Life, on tracks like Passion Fruit with even more success. But fans began to see a trend, especially while Drake picked up more cultural influences on the same project to capitalize from. They noticed that he would switch from one accent to another to fit the targeted culture. He picked up a Jamaican accent and lingo for dancehall tracks, and transitioned to a British accent using UK terminology. Fans thought it to be inauthentic and simply just appropriation for sales and streams. Popular dancehall artist Mavado even called out Drake, stating, "You are not from dancehall. You have no power in dancehall, and everybody know who introduced you to dancehall, so don't feel like you come disrespect Gully. Take that out, you brain, and don't tweet again." Even his own artist Popcaan obviously didn't feel right about his situation with Drake and OVO. Since early last year, he declared his intentions to leave the label, but we can only assume that it's for the similar reasons repeated by previous failed signees, Drake running off with their culture and sound until it runs dry, then moving on to the next, without any concern for the artist's careers or who inspired the music. In fact, Popcaan's albums actually performed worse while signed to OVO than compared to before. And as we just discussed, the next culture Drake set his sights on to colonize was UK drill. For in 2017, Drake identified Giggs and Skepta as some of the leaders of the movement and called them in to record for More Life, although even many of the tracks they were not featured on included similar production to their own, and of course, Drake rapping with a somewhat British accent and lingo. But it seems that was just his warm-up. For a couple years later, Drake released War, among other UK-inspired tracks, but with a much stronger UK roadman accent and slang. Fans even began to joke about Drake collecting accents like they were infinity stones. Others were outright disgusted. And similar to all of Drake's previous collaborators, Skepta and Giggs failed to chart on the Hot 100 once without Drake. Another successful colonization, I guess. But let's not forget one of Drake's most recent disciples, Central C. After Central C had earned his spot in global music on his own accord, Drake tags along to his On the Radar freestyle and steals the whole show, but not necessarily with his bars, rather his particular accent.
So madness and badness. Combination.
The past few years, Latin music, and more specifically reggaeton, has taken the world by storm. Bad Bunny was a rising global star and at the forefront of the entire genre, and so coincidentally, recognizing this trend, Drake linked up with Bad Bunny as soon as he could to feature on his debut studio album. Except, Latin culture seemed to be much more difficult for Drake to grasp. In the Mia music video, Drake looked outright uncomfortable keeping up the pace with the Tresillo cadence, whereas Bad Bunny was obviously the more charismatic of the artist on the track. Regardless, Bad Bunny returned the favor on Drake's most recent album, For All the Dogs, and I don't think publications could have described his verse any better than they did in their review of the collab, stating, "On Gently, Bad Bunny sounds like he dialed in his verse from the Sprinter en route to the Gucci show, while Drake deploys his best 7th grade Spanish on a Dembow beat. And furthermore, Gently featuring Bad Bunny is downright goofy. Drake slipping between Spanish language rapping and fake Spanish language rapping like the Puerto Rico superstar's cartoonish sidekick." Anthony Fantano put it best though when he reviewed the track.
Does Drake know that, you know, you can just let somebody from a different country or culture rap on your track without like impersonating them?
Honestly, Nevermind accurately predicts its own future as one of Drake's most forgotten albums, even though it was a blatant attempt to do the exact opposite. Drake sought to tap into the international electronic scene of house music while blending it with his typical rap flows in order to continue widening his global listenership. He recruited some of the most influential influential Afro house DJs such as Gordo, formerly known as Carnage, and Black Coffee, among others. And yet, the album still fell flat. Of course, compared to his peers, the album still sold well. However, that was simply due to Drake's name. And really, the only songs that stuck long-term were more hip-hop leaning like Jimmy Cooks and Sticky, highlighting the challenges of trying to conquer a new culture that one isn't authentic to. And due to the album's mixed album perception, Drake hasn't pondered into the house music scene much since, which should serve as a reminder that while experimentation in music is commendable, it requires more than just surface-level attempts to resonate with a new audience. Now, Drake's adoption of Memphis rap is a bit more deep-rooted in his family and music, and therefore might not be of the same level of colonization as the other cultures, because Drake's father is actually from Memphis and would allegedly drive Drake down to his hometown during his childhood summers. So throughout his career, Drake has continuously paid homage to Memphis via lyrics such as in Jumpman and Underground Kings, as well as his usage of samples from legendary Memphis DJs in Non-Stop. He hadn't really ever collaborated with many artists from the local scene though, until Tay Keith, who actually produced Non-Stop, and Black Boy JB started bubbling in the city, whereby Drake finally blessed its artists with the mainstream spotlight by featuring on one of their tracks, Look Alive. Notably, Drake's verse interpolated the lyrics and flow of Memphis legend Project Pat on his opening verse, clearly indicated the song was an ode to the city. Look Alive debuted at number 2 on the Hot 100 Billboard, but once again, notice something backwards about the whole song. Drake occupies more than 2/3 of the song's playtime, all the while technically being a feature. Of course, Black Boy JB was likely happy launching to superstardom with just one verse, but time and time again, Drake received all the credit for putting on his city, whereas we all know where Black Boy JB's career has fallen since. Which leads us to the decade of the 2020s, a new generation of artists rapping over electronic, spacey trap beats inspired by Playboi Carti, Lil Uzi Vert, Pierre Bourne, and others were rising in rank with the help of TikTok and the underground cult fanbase. Eventually, this sound would be classified as rage, and Whole Lotta Red was among the most highly anticipated albums due to Carti's infamous spree of leaked music. So, Drake the Conquistador knew what he had to do to tap into this younger, more internet-savvy market. Knowing it would be mutually beneficial for both parties, Drake recruited both Playboi Carti on the feature and Pierre Bourne on the production of Pain 1993 for his upcoming EP. Drake's collab with this new age artist still resulted in one of the most popular songs on Dark Lane demo tapes, showcasing the strength of the underground cult audience. Now, maybe Drake genuinely enjoys Carti's rather unorthodox style of music, since he did text Ian Connor to remix his and Pierre's old leak One Day. Or perhaps Drake included their collab on his EP to capitalize on Carti's hype from the Whole Lotta Red rollout. It's a classic move we've seen before, Drake aligning himself with the rising stars of a new sound in order to boost his own relevance while their hype is at a peak. Carti wasn't his only target in this new wave though. The next year, a new star had been born, speed running through the entire industry with hit after hit on TikTok, Yeet. And coincidentally, they were releasing their albums about a week apart. What an opportune time to capitalize on the next and upcoming rapper. The night Yeet released his debut studio project with Interscope titled Up To Me, Drake posted a picture on his story reciting lyrics from one of the tracks on the album. And furthermore, the very next week on the night of his own album, Certified Lover Boy, multiple pictures of the two linking up at his release party surfaced. Of course, per usual, both parties benefited from the cosign, by which Yeet was now stamped as the next superstar. But once again, Drake could now take credit for being correct in his prediction of who's next up. But Drake took it one step further. For 2 years later, on his latest album, For All the Dogs, he laid a verse on the open space within Yeet's unreleased track called I Don't Give a Fuck. Little did he know, the song would become one of the biggest memes to come out of rap in 2023, even reaching the #1 globally streamed song in its first week. But not necessarily in a good light for him, because as mentioned, the song and production was originally Yeet's, incorporating electronic synths typically reserved for the new wave of rappers, and therefore Drake sounded a bit out of his element. In fact, it was objectively decided by the masses that Yeet washed him on his own record. Nonetheless, for better or worse, because of his association with Yeet, Drake indirectly maintained his throne as the most talked about rapper. So I guess mission accomplished. And let's not forget the smaller moves he's made to keep up with the rage music trend throughout the last couple of years, such as recording on Super Mario's beat intended for a collab with Playboi Carti, resulting in an early 2022 hit called What's Next. Oh, and similar to much of Carti's discography, this song actually leaked prior to its release in order to gain anticipation from the fans. Drake really knows how to emulate every culture he enters into, even the leak community. It has actually even been said that Lil Yachty is his A&R of sorts nowadays, keeping him up to date with all that is relevant in fashion and music. In a recent interview, Yachty even admitted he was surprised that Drake rarely listened to music in his free time, which is definitely very odd for arguably the most successful musician of our time.
Would you say your music is a part of your all-day, everyday experiences?
No.
That's the same with Drake. When I started hanging with him, I'm like, he rarely listens to music, except for like when he's recording. You know?
Do you mean in the weeks he's recording? He'll
just
be
like in his daily life. Like I'm gonna wake up, music, driving, music, showering, music, eating, music. He's more like a talking type of person.
Yeah.
Music when it's time to record. Sometimes he plays music in the car, but sometimes he'll ride in silence. Most times. Before we got as close, I thought all musicians were like me and just like music was all everyday, everything.
He even followed Ken Carson based on Yachty's referral a couple days after the release of his album, A Great Chaos. Although Ken unfollowed more recently, overall, it is quite apparent Drake is just following Yachty's directions as to what he should co-sign in order to maintain his status as the top rapper, especially after Yachty's reference tracks for his last album with practically bar-for-bar comparisons leaked online, drawing suspicions as to if Bo is really the mastermind behind Drake's recent work. Not to mention the more rage-style beats and frequent Lil Yachty contributions throughout the album. And last, but certainly not least, Drake is even tapping into the freshest of rappers in the scene. Ian is the new kid on the block, emerging from the underground community similar to that of Yeat, all the while having less than a handful of tracks within his catalog. And so, it's only fitting that while Ian transitions to a more mainstream artist, recently seen collaborating with Quavo, and you guessed it, Lil Yachty, that Drake follows him too. And while nothing has come from it yet, I guess we'll find out more in the near future as to what Drake has in store for him. I think Kendrick put it best. Drake has colonized the music industry in a variety of genres. He hops on the wave while it's hot and then moves on to the next trend after he's capitalized as much as he could for his own career with little respect towards its creators. Drake has opposed these claims by saying he just likes new music. But is that really true considering what Yachty said more recently? Drake may believe himself to be responsible for giving the spotlight to upcoming artists and genres to push music forward as a whole. However, why then do most of these artists never amount to much after he co-signs them? Instead, he has just repeatedly proven himself to be music's best colonizer, with the ability to spot the next biggest artist to associate himself with in order to maintain his dominance in the industry. And so, with all that being said, it's been your boy Bobbalam signing off. Let me know in the comments if you agree or not regarding Drake's colonization of the music industry, and or if that's even a bad thing. Of course, make sure to like, subscribe as well, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.